Hi, I'm Joe Pillar, your pop culture monger, and I'm here with
Rich Sands.
And today we're going to talk about Comic-Con. For those of you who don't know, Comic-Con is an annual event that happens in San Diego, and it's all about comic books, sci-fi, and everything fun. And if you haven't figured that out already, so is Rich. So Rich, how many times have you been to Comic-Con?
I went to Comic-Con 14 times between 2003 and 2016. I've missed the last 2 years, but I am determined to go back next year.
Do we need to do a GoFundMe so you can go?
Sure.
We take free tickets from our fans. And this year, I think what was really crazy was there was something even I, who am not very Comic-Con versed, knew was happening. And you were looking forward to it.
That was the trailer for Aquaman was finally going to be released.
And I'm really excited that Aquaman in the movie doesn't look like this. He looks like Jason Momoa, and I will be queuing the pictures up right now. So why is it taking so long to have an Aquaman movie? Because everyone else has had one already.
Right. Well, Aquaman, just a brief history, was introduced in the comics in 1941.
Oh, when you were a baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Stupid
You
joke.
were my babysitter. And he's been around for a long time, but when there were the Super Friends cartoons in the 70s, and he became kind of a joke because all he did was talk to fish, and they made fun of him. It was even a punchline on the show Entourage when the lead character, Adrian Grenier's character, Vince, I think was his name, was going to play Aquaman. Then briefly...
Wait, that was a whole season. That was like Jerry and George were going to do a TV show on NBC for a whole season.
Right.
Oh, I love that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then...
Learning something new on Pop Culture Manga all the time.
The creators of Smallville tried to make a spin-off. Well, actually, not a spin-off. They tried to do a pilot starring Justin Hartley. And it was an okay pilot, but it did not get picked up. And then...
I thought you hated it.
It was so long ago, I barely even... It was 2006. I still have it on my computer.
Your Rain Man memory can't go that far? Come on. I'm sure we have it on DVD somewhere. We could probably find it and watch it again.
I have it.
I figured it would.
They introduced Jason Momoa in the DC Extended Universe. He was briefly in Batman vs. Superman.
That's the Justice League one.
That's the first movie where Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck both realized that their mothers were named Martha.
Yes, I did. I remember that.
Right,
I remember you telling me that.
Then he had a bigger role in Justice League, and he was actually pretty good in that. They gave him some funny lines, like when he sat on Wonder Woman's magic lasso and started just spewing stream of conscious truths.
What I think is really interesting is I only know Jason Momoa from being married to Lisa Bonet and being Zoe Kravitz's stepdad and being on Game of Thrones. And on Game of Thrones, he is like the most amazing Herculean Adonis.
Yeah.
You know,
he was eye candy.
And the idea too is, I think, what's her name?
Daenerys?
Daenerys is in the way he comes on the screen in Game of Thrones is it's like a mixed marriage, not a mixed marriage, arranged marriage. And if you're gonna get arranged marriage, he's the one you want to get arranged marriage with. So I felt like she hit the jackpot, and she was not upset. She was not upset at all. What was your reaction to the Aquaman trailer?
I thought it looked incredible. Now, the caveat I will say is that DC knows how to cut a trailer. If you think back, Batman vs. Superman trailer looked awesome. Suicide Squad trailer looked awesome. Man of Steel trailer looked awesome. Justice League trailer looked awesome. The only movie they've had that really lived up to the promise of the trailer was Wonder Woman.
Wow.
So
we'll talk about that later.
Right. That is the caveat that I will say, that this trailer looked really good. It looks like it's got a little bit of a sense of humor. The DC movies are notoriously dark, and they've taken a lot of heat for that. And so I think they may have... And his character did seem to have a little bit of a lightness in Justice League. And
I think he has a generally... like a very natural way. He's probably not going to win an Oscar in the next 5 years, but maybe in the next 10 years he could. Like, he has a je ne sais quoi, like you'd say maybe a Rock has, and even Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, they're these big guys, but you can't look away from them because they're so attractive. And then at the same time, they're like teddy bears. And he, I think, brings a certain something that we haven't seen before, because he's very... internationally, multiculturally looking. He's got long hair, but it's not like the long blonde hair you would expect. Right. He's very, I don't know, he's not what you think. When you think of Aquaman, this is what you think of. And even there was a time in the comic books in the 90s, and periodically they've reintroduced it, where Aquaman had long hair, but he was still blonde and white. Right.
So this is a different take on that character. Interestingly and encouragingly, there hasn't been a huge fan backlash. Fans do tend to freak out when
a blonde James Bond was like a huge thing, and Daniel
exactly.
Craig has been the most profitable James Bond in the history of James Bond.
Right.
So my first reaction was, who is this redhead, and is it the Little Mermaid? Because I didn't get it. Like, Amber Heard is the love interest mermaid lady.
She's Mira.
Like I said, the mermaid lady. And she looks just like Little Mermaid. Is that how she looks like Ariel in the comic book?
Well, I mean, the look in the movie is very faithful to what Mira looks like in the comics, but Mira is a badass in the comic books. She is, in some cases, she may even be stronger than Aquaman. She's got incredible powers that she can manipulate water. She is super strong. So she is a force, and it looks like in this movie, she is the person. She isn't from Atlantis, and she recruits Aquaman to come back to deal with civil strife there.
So she's like the Charles Townsend to his being an angel.
Sure.
Just putting it into terms I can understand. And also Nicole Kidman is in this movie
as Aquaman's mother,
and she looks a lot like the mother in the original Superman movie. Because there's a scene where she's all in white, she's very pale because she's Nicole Kidman, and she's handing the baby off to somebody like they had to do it with Marlon Brando. Who was it? Susanna York and Marlon Brando in the Christopher Reeve movie. Just dropping some names because those are the only things I know about superheroes, kind of. And it seemed very reminiscent of that. I think it looks totally interesting and different than all the other movies that we've seen so far, in the sense that the water world that they're creating is very hypnotic, and they even have spaceships and things that they travel in. So why would they need them if they're Aquaman? But if they're going really far, I guess they need transportation.
Well, yeah.
I don't know.
Atlantis is a kingdom under sea, but they still need an army, and if they've got to travel. James Wan, the director of the film, has said that this movie is more like a science fiction fantasy movie than a superhero movie, which speaks to what you just said.
So I feel like I need either a comic book cheat sheet, or I'm going to need some Oprah interviews and get some details about this or something, or an Entertainment Tonight, because Oprah's not doing a show anymore.
Well, I feel like if the movie does its good job, you can walk into the theater and not even know who Aquaman is, and it should make sense. I mean, they're going to roll out, it'll be a little bit of an origin story, it looks like, based on the trailer.
That's what my question was, too, because we had talked about this before. Like, would it be an origin story because he's already been, they've teased him in 2 movies, and now their 3rd movie is all Aquaman, so how much do they really need to do? But it sounds like his world is so different than the rest of the Justice League members that we've got to see.
Right. I mean, it's like they introduced Wonder Woman in Batman versus Superman, but we didn't know much about her. And then in the Wonder Woman movie, we got the whole backstory of how she came from Themyscira and entered into man's world and fought in World War I and blah, blah, blah.
I love all these locations and things. Like, I just know it was like a long time ago. But I'm really excited that Patrick Wilson is going to be the villain, because he has been around for a little while. He's a Broadway guy. He had the TV show that was pretty good. And now he needs some superstardom because he is multi-talented.
Well, he looked great. He's going to play Orm, the half-brother of Aquaman, who apparently has taken over the throne of Atlantis. And he's the reason why Mira comes to Aquaman. I guess it looks like she's recruiting him to overthrow.
This is very
Orm.
Cain and Abel.
Oh, well, I mean, there are only probably 10 stories that keep getting told over throughout history.
I can't wait for
But we're not going to get that deeper.
I can't wait for the paternity test Aquaman, because something tells me that Aquaman's getting a lot of fishtail. Ooh, bad joke?
We may be cutting that one out.
Okay.
And the movie opens December 21st, Christmas week, so that should be really interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing.
That doesn't happen that often, right? With a big
superhero movies usually come out in November, March, and May.
So it's thinking about this, that's the studio's Christmas. I mean, that's their Oscar week.
Yeah.
So that they have a lot of investment.
And I'm sure it'll be up for technical and artistic Oscars, but surely they can't imagine they're going to get any.
Well, it's a little too soon to tell. But let's just put it this way. If Nicole Kidman gets a Best Supporting Actress nomination for Aquaman, some other people are not in movies. Meryl Streep must have taken... No, Meryl Streep is not getting nominated for her part in Mamma Mia 2. But Cher could get in there because everything is about Cher this year. So anyway, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Facebook, and thank you so much for watching.